Hey, is streaming birthing a new big three, and what does this mean for hip hop? Recently, Spotify posed the question, who's leading hip hop's next generation? This made me think about how powerful Spotify and streaming has become, but also its impact on genres like hip hop, and also who's the next leaders or the next big three. Let's talk about it. So firstly, as Spotify is the biggest streaming platform, I'm going to mainly focus on that one. As of 2026, hip-hop is the leading genre on Spotify with around 22 to 32% of global streams, which means this question of who's going to lead hip-hop's next generation, for us it's a cultural question, but for Spotify it's a financial question. Who should they invest in?
What up, y'all? I'm Speedy, and I'm on the streets of Soho with Spotify right now, trying to figure out who is leading the next generation of hip-hop.
Dochi Talk. I'm about to go Glorilla, man.
We're looking for people who listen to hip-hop.
So currently, hip-hop is the most lucrative, but it's also going through a transitional period. If I was to borrow a Commons concept from I Used to Love Her and personify the genre, it'd be a 50-year-old woman that we still love, more so for the nostalgia rather than bringing something new and original. And some argue Spotify's playlist structure doesn't help by encouraging artists to create music to fit into a certain mold that supports quantity and formula rather than quality and uniqueness.
If you're not on Spotify, you're probably using one of its competitors like Apple Music that offer a very similar experience to the Spotify playbook. That playbook consists of using algorithmic playlists and song suggestions to keep you engaged within the app. On the surface, these algorithms sound like a great idea. I mean, more of what you love, right? But in reality, there are real-world negative consequences to these algorithms for both you, the listener, and for the artists you know and love. If we don't do something about it now, there's a real danger of losing the human component of music entirely.
Whilst platforms like SoundCloud and Bandcamp historically have helped listeners find up-and-coming new independent artists, Spotify's algorithm works differently. It encourages the listener to go back to big artists because that's where the money is. There's a focus more so on nostalgia rather than discovery. Speaking of nostalgia, when it comes to hip-hop, I don't think a lot of us really think about audience fatigue. Unless something is super relatable, inspiring, innovative, or different, naturally listeners are going to go to different places, right? But a question for you guys in the comments, how do you lot feel about hip-hop right now? So audience fatigue in hip-hop comes at an interesting time where fans are looking for the next big three. So currently we have Drake, Kendrick and Cole in no particular order, and every decade since the 70s we've roughly had like a new big three dominating. So what's interesting is that in the 2020s we should have really had a new big three consisting of 90s babies, which leads me to my big three cycle theory. So usually in every decade we get a new big three who were born roughly 25 years before the era they lead. So looking at this image, in the 90s we had rappers like Tupac, Biggie, Nas, Snoop, who were mainly babies from the early 70s. In the 2000s we had Kanye, 50 Cent, Eminem, who were in the late 70s and early 80s. In the 2010s we had Drake, Kendrick, Cole, Future, born in the mid to late 80s. And then Spotify's new leaders are born in the late 90s, specifically 1998, interestingly enough, and they're having success now. But none of these artists feel like they fit into the big three. They're still kind of proving themselves. So although we haven't gotten a big three in hip-hop, we did get a big three from another genre, which is Afrobeats, consisting of Wizkid, Davido and Burna Boy. And by my big three cycle theory, they're all 90s babies that started dominating in the 2020s. On a side note, I also want to mention Ira Star, Thames, Ashake, Tiwa Savage and Rima. So personally, I'd put Ira Star, Ashake and Rima as a second tier generation top big three. I'd put Tiwa Savage as the same generation as Wizkid, Davido and Burna Boy. And I put Thames in sort of like a unique space due to her age and the time she came out. But it'd be great to know in the comments who's your top three in hip-hop and Afrobeats, and do give this a like, subscribe, comment and share if you're feeling this video so far. That's much appreciated. Now I know some of you are thinking, I don't care about Afrobeats, I care about hip-hop, but I will say I don't think we can ignore the rise of Afrobeats in this moment where hip-hop is being stagnant and the role of streaming in this. So in my next section, I'm going to touch on how streaming is helping the growth of Afrobeats, but also some of the downsides of streaming on Afrobeats. do think streaming has helped the globalization of music. So originally you had central hubs, so America being the biggest and the main one, but Spotify helped genres like Afrobeats, Latin music, K-pop. So if you're an artist making that music, you don't have to be in America to be successful. In the article, How Spotify Helped Turn Afrobeats into a Global Phenomenon by Damilare Deshomu, he says Spotify's on the groundwork in Nigeria, such as hiring local staff, has contributed to the success of Afrobeats. Between 2017 and 2022, there was a 550% growth in Afrobeat streams on Spotify. In 2023, London, Paris, and Nairobi ranked among the top 5 cities that streamed Afrobeats on the platform. During that time period, Afrobeat had some of its biggest albums. You had Davido's A Good Time, then you also had Burna Boy's African Giant in 2019. In 2020, you had Wizkid's A Made in Lagos classic album, and I think Spotify really had its finger on the pulse. So going back to analogies, if hip-hop is the 50-year-old something that you love for nostalgia, Afrobeats is the 20-year-old something that's fun, energetic, gives summer vibes, and generally has like very positive lyrics that everyone can dance and have fun to. In terms of streaming, hip-hop is still dominant, but Afrobeats is growing, and with it being a younger genre, I think we're going to see it have a big impact across culture. So that's art, fashion, film, television, and more. So of course, Afrobeats in large is a cultural branch of Nigerian culture, and Nigerian culture is just booming right now. But there are some negative side effects to streaming which I'm pointing to highlight. So Spotify doesn't pay out a flat out fee per stream. It's based on the subscription model per territory. So 1 million streams can see an artist make between 3,000 to 5,000 US dollars in America. But if you're an artist based in Nigeria, you're gonna see between 300 to 500 US dollars. Now, I do understand Spotify does have to make money, but at the same time, it does devalue the music in certain territories. So in the article, Why Spotify Pays Nigerian Artists 33 times less than in Sweden, Muyiwa Awoniyi, the manager of Thames and Omale, said, if my IP is anchored to a region where 1 million streams is 300 US dollars, I'm cooked. Now just imagine that for emerging artists. Secondly, similar to hip hop, one of Afrobeats' criticisms is that all of the songs sound the same. And as mentioned previously, Spotify's playlist structure encourages talent to produce songs that fit into a certain sound in the hopes of being in those playlist categories, rather than encouraging uniqueness. So overall, streaming has had a positive and negative impact on Afrobeats. On one side, it's helped the genre reach more people, but in doing so, it's also devalued the music. And I think it's so important as fans of the music to support these artists through different means. So whether that's purchasing merchandise, attending live shows, or purchasing music through CDs or vinyls, especially in territories where streaming devalues that music. Okay, cool. So for the next section, I'm going to touch on some of my predictions of how I think streaming is going to continue to influence music, but then also answer my original question from the title. Before answering my original question, I want to touch on 3 predictions that are going to happen in music that will directly relate to streaming. So firstly, genre blending. So streaming will continue to support globalization, and in doing so, we'll probably see new leaders produce music that blends genres. When I look at artists like Jay Haas, who blends UK rap with Afrobeats or Afro swing, or even Drake or Doche, who blend rap and R&B, although they all come from specific genres, what makes them so appealing is their ability to blend and fuse genres, and in doing so reach new listeners. Imagine an artist born in New York who had the ability to rap like a New York MC, but then sing melodies like an Afrobeat artist from Ghana. So it may not be as clear cut as that, but I do think we live in a day and age where people have heritage and roots in different places and are inspired by different things. So it makes sense to have artists come along, draw upon all of these different inspiration and roots, and create something that's authentic and that resonates with audiences. Secondly, this is a cultural shift that I think streaming will get behind if there's money to be made. It's the recognition of women as leaders in genres. So genres like hip hop and Afrobeats are male dominated, but there's so many dope women artists. I'm sure most people have heard of Thames' story of having to wear baggy clothing in studio sessions, so producers focus on her music and not her body. In the BBC article, Grammy-winning Afro-pop star Thames, women are not respected in the industry. It reads, the industry's so-called big 3, Burna Boy, Davido and Wizkid, are all male, while their female counterparts such as Tiwa Savage have spoken out about the barriers they face because of their gender. Thames told the BBC she wants to change the way women see themselves in music and hopes to achieve this through her new platform, the Leading Vibe Initiative.
I think I'm really excited to just experience the culture and experience I know the culture, but experience the perspective that they have and their approach to music, and also bring my own perspective and my own approach, and hopefully just meet in the middle where we're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just want to be a fly on the wall in a way, and just learn, and also just share my process and how I work, and I don't know, hopefully someone could learn from that too.
So as fans, music critics, and people that work in the music industry, when we talk about leaders in specific genres, we should also look at the achievements of women and not just exclusively their male counterparts. I think this will give us a fuller picture as to leaders, and also recognizing everyone's impact in their respective spaces. So last but not least, I think we're going to see more big ones. So these are artists that tend to unite audiences and appeal to multiple demographics. They may start off in one genre but are able to transition into new genres and widen their audiences. For example, Bad Bunny going from reggaeton and Latin trap to pop, or even Taylor Swift transitioning from country to pop. They're able to tap into fan bases that organically grow with them. They're pretty much global superstars that streaming models love to get behind because they make so much money compared to smaller artists. Okay, let's circle back to my original question. Has streaming birthed the new big three, and what does this mean for hip-hop? So hip-hop is still top dog and dominant, but Afrobeats is also shaping global black music, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. As a genre, it didn't just rise because it's new, it had the support of streaming, which loves global appeal and its ability to connect across borders. And I think that's the bigger point. I don't think we should be waiting around for another big three to dominate one genre anymore. We're entering a new era where influence is global, genres are blending, and the leadership doesn't look the same as it once was. So the real question isn't who's the next big three, it's do we even need one anymore? I actually don't think we do. But it'd be great to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, do like it, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.